Cynthia Johnson wants to introduce a new member. So let's have her do that first.
Hello, it's nice to be back here. We have two new members. One is Judy Lurie, who you might know. She couldn't make it today because her sister is visiting. She's a new full-time resident year-round on Smith Street, but she's been coming to Rockport since she was 5 for the summers. And her and her husband, as adults, have spent the summers here. So when we were visiting on my porch, she knew just about everybody who walked by. Our other new member is Christine Tosin. Would you just stand up for a minute? Christine is new to Rockport, but she also had been coming to Rockport for years. Sometimes. Anyway, Christine's the one who was volunteer giving out Irish bulbs a week or so ago. So welcome, Christine, and say hi to us.
Thank you.
Okay, so our speaker today is Rick Roth from the K-Band Vernal pool team. And if you read the first email that talked about him a little bit, he's been doing this all his life, he says. And he's going to tell us everything that we ever wanted or maybe didn't want to know about vernal pools. And his other passion is snakes. And I asked him not to bring snakes today, so hopefully he did.
We'll see
So
what happens.
I'm going to give you Rick Roth.
All right. Well, thank you for having me here today. And for those of you that got here a little bit early, or even a little bit on time, we were going to show a movie that we made about vernal pools, but we couldn't make it run. So we're going to do this other thing that we've been working on, and our hope is to open a wildlife center on K-Band where people can come and learn about the nature of vernal ponds and all kinds of other cool stuff. We do have this huge amount of wildlife habitat, dog town, and some of the different wooded areas that we have here. So we really have a lot of stuff going on. Don't we go to the next slide? We'll see what happens. Keep going. Yeah, so Massachusetts is the first state to offer protection for vernal ponds. And vernal ponds, in fact, are usually small, temporary wetlands. Most of them dry up in the summertime. They fill in the fall and winter with rainfall and snow melt. And then by summer, they're usually dry. Of course, that means there's no fish in them, which gives them kind of a unique ecology. And there's a lot of animals that can't really survive in a fish habitat that do really well in a vernal pool. One of them is the poster boy for vernal pools, which is the spotted salamander. Okay, and this is what we do when we go out to certify. The state doesn't do it, although they do allow for it. And what you got to do is you fill out a report. First, you got to take a picture of the pool, and evidently we were there on April 14th or 15th, 2017 at this pool. I don't have any memory of it, but that doesn't mean I wasn't there. So, anyways, first you got to take a picture of the pool full of water in the springtime. And there's Keith and his waders, and what we do is if we can't see any eggs, salamander eggs, from the shore, we have to wade in there and find them, kind of scoop them up with a little tray and photograph them. They want you to photograph 5 egg masses. That way, you know that like one salamander didn't wander in there and lay eggs. It wasn't some accidental thing. They're actually a breeding population. And that's the other thing about it. They want to show that there's a breeding population in there, and not just one salamander that you found in some wetland somewhere. Because a lot of times people find them in sewer pipes and stuff that certainly aren't vernal pools, okay? Kind of. And there they are, you know, we got Salamander egg masses, they're a lot like Jell-O with little black dots in them, and of course those are the embryos of the spotted salamanders. And they're about the size of a tennis ball, which is a lot larger than a spotted salamander. Well, when they lay the eggs, they're about the diameter of a quarter, all of them together, and then the egg mass sponges up water over the next day or two and grows. And they're usually attached to twigs. That's what they do. They get underwater when they're ready to lay eggs, and the females kind of grab onto a twig or a stick or something, and they stick the eggs right to that, so they're not submerged. There. Now those are wood frog eggs. They're very similar to spotted salamander eggs, and wood frogs are another obligate species. Wood frog eggs are just kind of a big mass, and spotted salamander eggs kind of have a membrane all the way around them. So it's just, once you look at a few of them, it's pretty easy to tell. And usually, especially with the wood frog eggs, they get a certain kind of algae on there that turns them green pretty fast after the eggs have been laid. Wood frogs are another obligate species.
Is that the same as a beaver?
No. Okay, so back when we made this slide thing, which was a few years ago, these are all pools that we've certified on Cape Ann. Okay, we got started about 32 years ago. A friend of mine took me out to a vernal pool, which I wasn't really that familiar with at the time. I've always been a reptile and amphibian guy, but I didn't really know too much about vernal pools. And he took me out one night, and the wood frogs were quacking. That's what they do, they quack. And the salamanders were squirming around all over the place, and there was fairy shrimp in there, which are just like unreal. And it was such a spectacle that I started to research vernal pools, go into workshops, you know, or seminars and things about, learn about vernal pools and also how to protect them. Dragged as many people as I could with me when I did that. And we've been all over the state to different workshops and seminars to find out more about vernal pools. So anyway, whenever we made this thing, we had certified over 200 pools. Every now and then we get called to go somewhere else. You know, I got a pool in Peabody or something, and we'll go out and check it out. But you have a short window of opportunity, sometime in March usually, when the eggs are in there. And then once they hatch, it gets a lot harder to certify a pool. So that's what we try to do, is get out there when the eggs are in the pool. Next slide. And we get involved in some other projects. Landings Turtle Survey. The Thompson Reservation has a huge wetland in it. Out there in, I guess it's Essex, or Gloucester, or both, I'm not sure. And somebody found a landings turtle, which is state endangered, on the exit ramp of 128, and what's that road that goes to Essex? Is that 133? Yeah, yeah. And that's really just like right next to the Thompson Reservation. So anyways, let's see what we're doing in there. Yeah, so here we are. That's a turtle trap. And it kind of spreads out like this, so you've got this big cylinder of netting, and then there's these funnel-shaped openings that go into it, so the turtle finds his way in there. And what we do is we just put some sardines in there. You just take a can and puncture it, and throw it in there, and all that oil gets everywhere, and the turtles can smell it from a really long way away. If you open the can, the first turtle in will eat all the sardines, and then you're done. So you just puncture the can, we found out over time. And this is a spotted turtle. It's turned out we didn't find any landings turtles in this wetland, but we did find some neat stuff, including this spotted turtle, and just a lovely little turtle. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dave Carroll, but he's a naturalist from New Hampshire. He follows these guys around all over the woods. Each one has a different bunch of spots on it. or different configuration. So he knows them well. And he's a very talented artist, and he paints them and draws them and all kinds of stuff. But I actually got the chance to, he visited Essex for some reason, and he was out there, and I got the chance to go on a walk with him. And he did, in fact, find a spotted turtle in a vernal pool while we were out there, and got to watch him make a sketch of it, and it was just really neat. Spotted turtles, some of the people that I know, I'm from Illinois, so I didn't grow up here. Well, I haven't grown up yet. But, and it's really true. I mean, I'm just chasing frogs and salamanders and snakes like I always did. But the spotted turtle is, some of the people that I know that have lived here forever have said to me that when they were kids, spotted turtles were the most common turtle out here. Well, they're not anymore. And the reason is they have the largest range of any turtle. They may feed in one wetland, overwinter in another, and move to yet another one in the spring to breed. So they're walking around a lot. More roads, more cars, less turtles. Okay? So anyways, it's really too bad. They're such a lovely little turtle, and every one of them's different. Okay, so another project we got involved with was the Millbrook Meadow and Mill Pond restoration. Eric Hutchins is always getting me involved with different things there, and I think what we wanted to do here when they were going to dredge the pond, a lot of people were concerned about the turtles that were in there. Well, Eric, good guy that he is, figured we'd make a public spectacle of it. We'd invite school groups to do field trips out there while we were doing it, and he got various other people involved in it, so it was really quite a thing. And you know, here we are kind of talking to the kids about how we're going to trap these turtles and where we're going to put them. And where we did put them, we trapped, I forget, I think it was 30 turtles or something. And we put them up at the loop pond, and that's connected by a stream to the mill pond. And we've actually found some of them that made their way back because we marked them. The way you mark a turtle is you just take a file, make a notch in their shell, and you just make different notches for different turtles, and you can identify which ones are which. So we marked them all and then shipped them up there, and some of them made their way down the stream and back into the mill pond. Here I am acting like I know what I'm talking about to a bunch of school kids as we get ready to go into the pool and check the traps. And there we are. And I'll tell you, if there was ever a pool that needed to be dredged, it was the mill pond. Just as deep as we are, the goop is right up to here, you know, and it's really crummy. It's like caulking compound or something. And it's really suctiony, you know, you have to like kind of drag your legs out of it. And I kept telling people who were wandering out there that, you know, if you fall over in that stuff, you're dead, because you never get out in time to breathe. And it's really true, so you really do have to be careful. I always carry either my net or my walking stick to make sure I got something that will reach the hard bottom that I can hold myself up on, because it's really nasty in there. But fortunately, they dredged it. Now there's a turtle trap that we're getting ready to check there, and then you can see it looks a little bit more like a turtle trap than when it's all folded up. But it is nice that they fold up, because then you can carry a bunch of them into the area you're working. It's usually not this close to a road, so we were very fortunate with this project. And there we are. We measured them all, we marked them, and those are my turtle calipers. I'm sure you've all got a pair at home. You know. So anyways, and you know, some of the kids out there really getting up close and personal with the turtles. And the thing that I find about all this stuff is that you really need to get people involved in a real personal way. Some people care about wildlife habitat, even if they're not, you know, they don't have anything to do with it. But most people are people who have some experience with getting up close and personal with wildlife. So, crate full of turtles, and we did get a few snappers. Aren't they handsome? While we were doing that, other people were looking for fish, and they set up some drift nets of some sort. I wasn't really, I don't really know how these things work. I think they're loose net, so when something gets in there, it kind of folds on itself, and I don't know. But anyway, they get trapped in there. And then, so we showed a lot of fish out of there too. And it was just kind of a fun project. I don't know how many weekends we were out there, but it was 3 or 4, and a few weekdays when the kids made field trips out there to check them out. Got to measure those fish. Eels. That's a really good. If any of you know Eric, you probably know about his eel studies, and he is really incredible. He set a little eel trap for the elvers that swim all the way from the Sargasso Sea back to where their parents came from. And these little tiny worm-looking things make it all the way up here from somewhere out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It's just incredible. And I'm really glad that he has brought it to the attention of so many people. Oh, there's an elver. And yeah, he sets a trap for him, and then every day he checks his trap. And some days he gets like hundreds of them in there that have returned all the way from the Sargasso Sea. I don't know what's going on here, so I could make something up, or we could just sure call. Some of our other relationships with the New England Wildlife Center, Dr. Greg Mertz is my reptile vet. And if you keep 70 snakes like I do, you're probably going to run into problems once in a while. And he's the guy I go to. He's in South Weymouth, so I drive past a lot of veterinary hospitals to get to him. But I just think he's the right guy for me. So, and he asked me to build a flight cage because I'm a carpenter. That's what I do for a living. I lose money at this. Okay, and so we built a flight cage on my deck, and then we disassembled it and loaded it onto somebody's pickup truck. And then we rebuilt it at the Wildlife Center in South Weymouth. So there's Greg in the middle, Nick Taramina, one of our staunch volunteers, and that's me on the right. So, we were able to just get there in the morning and leave in the afternoon with a suitable flight cage. And since then, they've expanded and got these great bunch of bigger flight cages, but that's what they have to do with their rehabilitated birds, is let them fly around for a while before they release them. This is the really fun part of vernal ponding, if you ask me. And the nighttime field trips, most of our chosen critters that we like to watch are nocturnal. So in the springtime, it's usually March. Sometimes it lasts into April. Sometimes you only get a few nights. Sometimes you get several nights. I've never seen everything happen in one big night like everybody talks about. And I'd like to find the guy that brought that phrase into the vernacular and wring his neck. Because everybody always, it's big night. And it's like, well, there isn't one. Okay? So, anyway, here we are with our flashlights milling around. There's a cluster of 9 pools out on Nugent Stretch where the vernal pool signs are. And there's 2 on the Rockport side and 7 on the Gloucester side. And they're some of our field trip pools because, you never know how many old people with some sort of a disability, something like that, are gonna show up for a field trip, and you don't wanna be walking like 5 miles into the woods at night in the rain. So we try to pick pools that are kind of halfway near the road someplace where we can park. And this is one of our favorite spots, is out on Nugent Stretch, and then we also go to Stillington Mall up there in Ravenswood Park, where you can park like this far from the crash gate, and you're about 20 feet from the pool. So that works out pretty good too. Somebody has spotted a salamander walking across the path, so when you're out there walking to the vernal pools, you gotta be careful where you're stepping, because some of them are walking to the pool. And some of them walk from at least a quarter mile away. And they are not moving very fast, so it can take them more than one night to get there sometimes. But they, yeah. So here we are shining into the water to see what we can see, and hopefully we get some good shots of some stuff other than our flashlights. I don't know. I can't remember because I haven't watched this in a while. Ah, yes you do. Spotted salamanders, and not unlike the spotted turtles, there's no two alike. So everyone's got a different spot pattern, and if you wanted to, you could tell them all apart and name them. But I haven't gone that far. So they go. They're so cute. They look like a cartoon, don't they? And it's like, this is one of the reasons that I really like to get people out to see these things, because they are so fun to look at. And just, yeah, and I can't take a photograph to save my life, so none of these were taken by me. But some people are really good at capturing stuff like this, and it's just really neat. Predaceous diving beetle, they get over an inch, and they can fly. And predaceous, they eat everything. And those are fairy shrimp down there. That's another obligate vernal pool species. Totally aquatic, and they live in a pool that dries up. Kind of mysterious, ain't it? But their eggs are in there. They lay their eggs just right on the bottom of the pool. They actually have to dry out, or they won't hatch. Now next year is going to be a banner year for fairy shrimp, because we had such a drought this summer. But the summer before, it never stopped raining, and we didn't see any last year. The eggs didn't dry out, none of them. I went to every one of my favorite fairy shrimp pools, and I didn't see one last year. So, or earlier this year, I should say, spring. But they, everything eats them. There's just these delicate little things that get about 1.5 inches, and they just, it's an underwater ballet that they perform. They kind of swim all over the place, and they're just really fun, interesting things that I never knew about until I was starting to check out these vernal pools. They're really something. Gotta be one of the loudest animals for his size, the spring peeper, and that's how they do it. Bubble up the throat and just push all that air through their vocal cords and make them. And really, there's a wood frog, and they are, while spring peepers can breed in a whole lot of different wetlands, they often choose vernal pools. Wood frogs pretty much have to breed in a vernal pond, or they're not gonna, their eggs and larvae aren't gonna survive. Good shot of a spotted salamander egg mass. Daytime field trips, sometimes we do those. This looks like it might have been one for, it's the trustees of reservations. Agassiz Rock. Okay. So, Manchester, yeah. They have some very nice little pools on the path. And once again, it's not real far into the woods. So, so we were able to find a bunch of neat stuff without walking half the day. I don't know what I'm doing there, but evidently it was something. I don't know. A long time ago. And yeah, the spotted salamander egg mass, this is kind of fun. Some of them are clear and some of them are cloudy. Nobody seems to know why, and they seem to have about the same hatch rate. It's a funny thing about, there's some kind of chemical that gets in there that makes them cloudy, and it's all because of a mutation of some sort. And mutations are really kind of funny because we all seem to think that it's got to be advantageous or it won't last. That's not true. As long as it's not detrimental, and as far as we can tell, it isn't. About 25% of our spotted salamander egg masses are cloudy like that, and the rest of them are clear. Nobody seems to know what it's all about, but. And there I am with some sort of snake, hognose. They come in a variety of colors, including black. And that happens to be a black one. And look at the look on that kid's face. That's his first introduction to a hognose snake, so that's what makes me want to do more of this stuff. And this is doing this one for Essex County Greenbelt in one of their pools out there in the Thompson Reservation. And we just found a ton of stuff in there, fairy shrimp, wood frog eggs, salamander eggs, and I think the peepers were screaming that day. It can be really good. Somebody had to spray that thing because some of our amphibians were getting a little dry in their containers. I don't assume that I'm going to find a lot of stuff when I do a field trip, so I usually take stuff with me. Frogs and salamanders, I just got them in a backpack. If I don't find anything, I start pulling things out of the backpack. Here we go, you know? Okay, so, yeah, as it turns out, naturally we do an intro to vernal pools, which includes our movie, which we tried to show earlier, but we weren't able to. And then, snakes of New England and the world. Here's the thing, I was always a snake man. I caught a snake when I was 5 years old on my way home from kindergarten, 65 years ago, okay? And I was obsessed. I mean, I always liked frogs and salamanders and turtles and lizards and all that other kind of reptilian and amphibian stuff, but snakes were always my favorite. So I was doing snake shows, and I found that the people that were helping me do the snake shows were always Vernal Pond team members. So at the time, I was the director of the Vernal Pond team, so nobody could stop me from making it a Vernal Pond team thing, so I did it. I'm actually still the director because, I don't know why, but nobody else wanted the job. But anyways, so let's see if there's anything else we offer. Oh yeah, there's our video we should be watching, but couldn't make it work. We actually made this work at my girlfriend's house the other night, but we couldn't make it work here today, so that was the end of that. But there's the case of it, just in case you ever want to know what it looks like.
Is it on YouTube?
And sometimes we do these vernal pond exhibits at various and sundry places. That looks like Art in the Barn at Essex County Greenbelt. Then we bring a bunch of frogs and salamanders and people who might be there for something else, you know, have a bunch of different things they can go to that Essex County Greenbelt finds interesting and invites to come to their thing. So any place a crowd gathers, we'll go there. So, and yeah, goldfish bowls with either fairy shrimp or egg masses or both or neither, depending on what we can find right around that time. And here I am doing a snake show at Albert Point State Park. And look at how many people show up for a snake show. Who would have thunk it? I would have never thunk it, but, and then, you know, I kept getting calls from some sort of school in like Beverly or something, the Waldorf school maybe. Yeah, we kept getting calls from, oh, we want you to come here and do your vernal pond thing, your snake thing. It's like, this is all news to me that people were gonna be this interested in all this stuff. There's Jasper, the boa constrictor. And you can see how terrified these girls are. And anybody recognize this place?
Yeah.
What is it?
Harold Parker State Forest.
What is it?
Harold Parker.
Harold Parker. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Oh, it says it. I'm always the last one to know these things. Hey, I thought you were gifted, like this little patio with stones, and you knew it and remembered it. I don't know. And,
That's a spoiler-free library.
thank you. I thought I recognized that one, but yeah, feel free to point that out. Yeah, so we do exhibits, which are where we just take a bunch of things when we think people are going to be walking past. And then if we've got a captive audience, like I do here, say they got a gate on the door so you can't get out if you want to. So we have an exhibit when people are going to walk by, and if we get an audience, we do a presentation. So that's just what we do. And there we are. That otter is, I found that dead on the road. Geez, a long time ago. At least 10 years, I think it was more than that. He was right there where the Nugent Stretch vernal pools are, and didn't have a mark on it. Clearly it was hit by a car, but it wasn't all bloody and broken. So I picked it up, threw it in a trash bag, threw it in my freezer, and kept it until I could get a hold of a taxidermist. And Fish and Wildlife put me in touch with a real good taxidermist that did a beautiful job of it. And they are certainly, not only do they visit vernal pool habitat, but they know when to go there. They're not there when there's no frogs. They like to eat frogs, and we certainly see them. One of the things that I've seen otters on Cape Ann in vernal pools, but I do find that most people cannot walk through the woods quietly. They couldn't sneak up on a corpse. You know, I'm telling people, like, okay, you gotta be really quiet. They're going, hey, Rick, and they're stomping their feet. And it's like, will you shut up? You know, so anyways, if I want to see stuff, I pretty much go by myself. But you can see an awful lot of stuff if you walk slowly and quietly and just don't make a racket. But I have found over time that 99% of the population is incapable of doing that. So, for what it's worth. The great tree frog, very few of them on Cape Ann, but you don't have to go very far. And you can start to hear them. Very percussive, short burst like that. I love it when I get to do my frog calls. Seen a couple on Cape Ann, but you don't have to go very far, and they're pretty common. And here we are. That in the forefront is Russell, our timber rattlesnake. And I am permitted by the state to keep those because I convinced them that I would do it responsibly and people would be able to see that. And there's nothing like seeing a live critter. So, anyway, I always thought I was secretly cool because I got rattlesnakes in my bedroom. I don't know what we're doing here, but we're doing it. And that's Louise, the black rat snake, which is actually native to Massachusetts.
How do you know a male from a female snake?
How do you know a male from a female snake? Every now and then, some species, and there's about 3,600 species of snakes worldwide, every now and then you get one where the females are light and the males are dark or something like that. They call that sexually dimorphic. But for the most part, that's not true. What you have to do is find the vent, which is where the body ends and the tail starts on a snake. Everybody thinks it's all tail, but most of it's body and a little bit of its tail. It's where they poop. And you take a probe, which is like a knitting needle with a round, you don't put a sharp thing in there. And they have two little pockets on each side of their underbelly of their, and you stick the probe in, it goes in 3 belly scales, then it's a female, and if it keeps going 5 or 8 or 10 belly scales, then it's a male. So most people choose not to do this. But I have found over time that I can do it successfully, and sometimes, see, a lot of people breed snakes, and I don't breed snakes myself, but I allow them to breed with one another. And sometimes, you know, there's actually way more of a market for snakes now than there used to be. It got popular in the pet trade, and a lot of people keep snakes now. When I was a kid, there was exactly 2 of us in Park Forest, Illinois, which is the same size as Gloucester, that got to keep snakes in the house. Me and, I'll come up with it, can't think of his name, you're not going to know him anyway, Ken Smith. And he lived all the way on the other side of town, so we had to ride our bicycles over to each other's house and stuff. But anyways, one of the things about my mother was she was never afraid of anything. I never saw that woman afraid, and like, you want to keep snakes in the house? Keep snakes in the house, I don't care. And so I got to keep snakes in the house. It was very unusual at the time. We're talking the late 50s, you know. So, yeah.
What was that red snake?
That red snake, can we back up? That's a Honduran milk snake, and that's an albino. How come it isn't all white? Well, snakes have 4 colors they can be. We only have 1. So if we're albino, we're all white. But they have 4 colors they can be. So even if the black is missing, you can, so it's truly amelanistic and not an albino, but everybody calls them albinos. So normally that white part would be black, and that's a Honduran milk snake. We have a milk snake here, and then there's 25 other subspecies all over the Americas. Gerard, the northern pine snake, the black and white one, and that's our Honduran milk again. Kind of matches the guy's shirt, you know. I noticed that before. So anyway, here's one of our larger snakes. That looks like Violet, and the I don't know who these guys are, but yeah, Harvest Music Festival in 2017. Okay. So anyway, we had a lot of fun with it. And a lot of times, who'd have thunk it, we're the most popular tent at some of these outdoor events. Because kids especially love snakes. And it's my girlfriend, Colleen, with a more normal looking Honduran milk snake with some black on it. And yeah. So anyways, now I see that we're running kind of to the end of the time here. So what I'd like to do, I brought some live critters because that's really the fun part. And I just thought that maybe we could spend a little time with those guys. And then some of our volunteer kids. I can't believe all the kids that come out of the woodwork to volunteer for us. I mean, it's just crazy. We get like 60 people to volunteer for us every year. And it's just really beyond my wildest dreams, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Did you find any blue spotted?
I've never found a blue spot at Cape Ann. I found them elsewhere, but and they're not very far away. I found them in Hamilton, and I haven't even spent that much time looking there. The Hamilton's not very far away, so even Essex on the Hamilton side at least has blue spots for sure. But I never found one on Cape Ann. So, yeah.
If we don't have rain or snow this winter, will the vernal ponds be back?
No, not most of them. Some of them have some inlets, like a creek or something, but it's not a permanent inlet. So, it gets complicated because they don't all fit the exact definition of a vernal pool. But there's, some of them have intermittent streams and stuff like that. So most of them won't fill up though. But in 32 years of watching them, I've never seen a spring without vernal pools that were pretty much full. So, yeah, Paul.
Hey, Rick, we've seen some large vernal pools. When they dry out, it's like, it's quite amazing if you haven't seen that before. It's like, well, it's a pond 1 month and then 3 months later it's a field.
Yeah.
What was that Rodgers and Hammerstein movie about the place that only appears every summer?
Oh, yeah.
Brigadoon. It's like Brigadoon.
Brigadoon, yeah.
Brigadoon. But my question is, are there certain kinds of wildflowers or even orchids that
Yeah.
habitat supports when it dries out?
Yes, absolutely. I was just looking at our movie last night, and because I hadn't seen it for a while, but we got pictures of buttonbush, which you usually don't find in a drier habitat, swamp loosestrife, goldenrod, candle something. What do they call that? Candle something. It's a yellow flowers, something candle, swamp candle. And quite a few other species that, they could grow elsewhere, but you find them a lot, especially buttonbush. That's something that we hardly ever find outside of a vernal pool, or at least I don't usually find it outside of a vernal pool. So yeah, there's all kinds of plants and a lot of have trees growing out of them, all kinds of stuff. Yes.
I never knew there were so many wild orchids in New England until I started.
Yeah.
I got a book on the subject.
Yeah.
And in several rare plants.
Yes.
And I just, every time I go to a vernal pool, I'm kind of looking for, because they're less disturbed habitats.
Yeah, I'm not really a plant guy, but I certainly did notice that there was a lot of really cool stuff. So anyways, I brought some critters, and I thought maybe the thing to do would just be to kind of walk by the table and check them out, or go around or do whatever you want. And also, I thought you should have a mascot. So I made a pumpkin, and I call him Gordon G. Garden Club. So this is what I do in my spare time, is this kind of nonsense. And, but yeah, I think the way to do it is just come on up here. And I brought the very otter that was in the thing, and I got some frogs and salamanders and snakes and turtles in here. So check them out, So anyway, thank you for your kind attention. This is Otto. Yeah. Oh, Woodman. Okay.
It's amazing when we do snake demonstrations.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not a snake person.
Thank you. I understand. Yeah, trying to climb out of there and he got flipped over. So,
It's
Now, do the
hardwired.
snakes attack any of these
Probably
creatures?
all.
well, they certainly eat frogs, some of them. Racers, water snakes, garter snakes, ribbon snakes, they all eat frogs. Turtles are pretty safe once they get past, the quarter-sized hatchlings. So, that's a black racer.
However, that being
Now,
said,
these are kind of shiny black and these are kind of velvety black. This is a water snake, okay?
and I don't know why.
I'm not afraid.
They can be.
I am.
We don't have any really aquatic snakes here. They just live by the water because their food's in there, fish and frogs. So, but we do find them in our vernal pool habitat.
They don't.
Not whatsoever.
They're not tame.
If you find a water snake in the wild and pick it up, it will bite you. Yeah, this one's been with me for 2 years and I can pick it up now. But
Can I touch it?
So you tame it just by handling it?